Here's one from a very famous street in London. Welcome to Oxford Street, the busiest shopping street in Europe with over 300 million visitors every year. And this is what it looked like 150 years ago. Ah yes, I remember those days. Back when I was just a wee little thoroughfare, they were laying down the foundations of the new road that would bear my name. The year before, Parliament had passed the Metropolitan Board of Works Act, which allowed for the construction of major new roads through central London. See, they wanted to get rid of all these slums and make way for, well, me. So they hired Thomas Telford, one of the great engineers of the age, to design the new street, and he did. He made me straight, wide and strong. Then he went off to do other things because he was busy designing half of London. I was officially opened in 1850 to by Queen Victoria herself. Can you imagine? Here she is driving along me in her chariot. The crowds were going wild. I think there were more people there than actually lived in London. And then the Duke of Wellington came along and cut the ribbon. That's him right there. I don't know what he was doing holding up a handkerchief like that. It's not like it was an Italian opera. Anyway, everyone cheered and fireworks went off and the mayor made a speech about how this new street would bring prosperity and light to London. And look at me, I was so grand, so majestic. All the shops and businesses wanted to be on me. It was the place to be. There was the old chapel of the Royal Institute for the Blind, which had been here since the 1760s. But now it was getting in the way of progress. So they moved it to make way for the new street. It took a few years to finish. They were still working on the sewers when 1852 rolled around. But never mind that, we had a street to christen. Over the years, I've played host to all sorts of interesting characters. In the 1920s, there was the Oxford Street hoax, where someone kept sending out false alarms about people falling from the sky and crashing into buildings. People would come running from all over the city, convinced that they had witnessed some sort of freak accident, only to find nothing but a gaggle of schoolchildren laughing at them. Good times. And then in 1936, I got to meet King Edward VIII. Oh, I say, remember him? Abdicated the throne for a bit to marry that American divorcee. Well, he came to open Selfridges, one of the many department stores that have graced my length over the years. Did you know that Selfridges was the first department store in the world? My owner, Harry Gordon Selfridge, was determined to make me the destination for luxury goods. He spared no expense, opening restaurants and a post office and even a police station. The opening night was one of the most spectacular in London history. There were fashion shows and fireworks and a red carpet leading all the way down my store. You had to have a ticket just to get in. King Edward came down and did the honors. Look at him there cutting the ribbon and shaking hands. I reckon he was a bit jealous of all the attention. After all, he was just passing through and I was making his new store look like the wonder of the world. No offense, Your Majesty. But not everyone was happy with me. As the years went by, people started complaining about all the noise and commotion. Where once there had been quiet streets, now there was the clatter of carts and the din of hawkers. There were even calls for me to be shut down completely. But people soon forgot about that when World War II rolled around. See, that's the thing about being a street. You get to see history up close. I mean, here I am, playing host to some of the worst horrors and greatest heroes of the war. Remember the Blitz? It was awful. All the bombs and the fire and the people, so many people running for cover. When the bombs fell, people would dive into the tube stations that ran beneath me. They were deep enough to keep them safe from the bombs, and they became known as the deeper shelters. Smart move. Those tube stations saved so many lives. Afterwards, I was a mess. Buildings were destroyed, shops were looted. But you know, Londoners, we dusted ourselves off and got to work rebuilding. We had to wait until 1946, though, for the end of rationing. But when it was over, oh boy, did people go wild. They had been without sugar and butter and meat for so long that when it was over, they celebrated with food. It was called the Great Feast. And here on Oxford Street, we went all out. There were mountains of sausages and eggs and bacon and pies and roasts. You could eat until your heart's content. And people did. After that, things settled back down to normal. And then they didn't. The 1960s were swinging, man. Hippies and punks and mods, they were all here on Oxford Street, looking for something, I don't know, maybe peace, love, music, whatever. They sure loved their music. I mean, the Beatles were huge back then, if you can believe it. I remember the day that they appeared on Top of the Pops. Every single shop on Oxford Street stopped what they were doing and crowded around the television set. I remember thinking, who are these mop tops and why do they sound like a car crash? But then Paul McCartney came on and sang, and I thought, so that's why. But times change, don't they? What was popular in the 60s is passé by the 70s. And then by the 80s, it's back again. I mean, just look at this lot. They look like they just stepped out of a time warp. Maybe they did. Who knows? Time is a funny thing. One minute you're in the 80s, the next you're in the 90s, then you blink and it's 2005. Suddenly I am hosting the worst May Day riot in British history. Yeah, good times. It was so bad that they had to cancel the traditional May Day march. Trouble was brewing in the city and I was right in the middle of it. These days, I'm a tourist attraction in my own right. People come from all over the world to walk my length. I've had pop-up shops and art installations and even a zip line. Just last year, someone decided that they wanted to pay tribute to the NHS. So they put up this enormous sculpture of a nurse on my corner. It's nice. I like seeing how people use me. And I've seen a lot of that over the years. Now, I've hosted everything from dog shows to royal processions to the funeral of Lord Curzon, Viceroy of India. You know, sometimes people forget that I'm actually a street. Like, I'm not just a shopping area. I'm a thoroughfare. People live and work on me. I'm part of their daily life. I mean, look at this guy putting up a new sign. It's just another day on Oxford Street. You know, I've seen a lot of changes in my time, but one thing has always stayed the same. I'm a busy street. Even in the horse days, I was packed full of traffic. And that hasn't changed. Not one bit. I mean, take a look at this. Cars and buses and trucks, double-deckers, coaches, they're all here, keeping me alive and kicking. And let's face it, where would London be without me? That's the thing about being a street. You get to see history up close. Now check out this clip from the 1930s. A newsreel camera crew was following a young woman down the street. They probably thought they had the most fascinating subject in the world. But look what happens when they pan away. Do you see the guy on the left? He's got a mustache and a flat cap and he's staring right at the camera. Well, he wasn't supposed to be in that shot. He was just some random bloke walking down the street. But when you think about it, that's what makes a street a street. It's not the famous landmarks or the big events, it's the people. It's the everyday people going about their everyday lives. That's what makes a street come alive. And that's what's made me, Oxford Street, the busiest street in Europe.